Hello and welcome. It's 10 a.m. on Tuesday, the 12th of August. You're tuned in to our mid-morning newscast here on ARIRANG TV. It's great to have you with us. I'm Mark Broom, and let's take a look at what's making the headlines. South Korea offers to hold high-level talks with North Korea next week on the reunion of families separated since the Korean War and other issues of mutual concern. No word yet on Pyongyang's response. The South Korean government says it will cut red tape, write special laws and promote competition to help develop 7 service sectors into a new growth engine. Plus, US President Barack Obama hails the nomination of a new, more inclusive candidate as Iraq's Prime Minister-designate as a promising step forward. US airstrikes against Islamic State militants continue in the country's north. But our top story this morning, South Korea says it would like to hold a fresh round of high-level talks with North Korea early next week. Seoul wants to discuss holding reunions for families separated since the Korean War, as well as North Korea's participation at the upcoming Asian Games in the South. Our Hwang Sang-hee starts us off.
South Korea reached out to North Korea on Monday, proposing high-level talks next Tuesday at the border village of Panmunjom. If held, it would be the second high-level meeting between the two Koreas since President Park Geun-hye took office. South Korean Unification Minister Ryu Gil-jae said a wide range of issues could be up for discussion.
We are planning to discuss reunions for families separated by the Korean War, as well as other issues of mutual interest.
The proposal for talks came on the same day South Korea decided to provide more than $13 million in aid to North Korea through the World Food Program and World Health Organization. The Unification Ministry said it will use the Inter-Korean Cooperation Fund to offer $7 million worth of nutritional assistance to mothers and children in the North via the WFP and $6.3 million in medical aid through the WHO.
We will provide $7 million to the WFP for nutritional assistance to mothers and children in the North. We will also offer $6.3 million through the WHO for medicine, improvement of medical facilities, and medical training programs.
Experts say South Korea is accelerating efforts to improve inter-Korean relations ahead of President Park Geun-hye's Liberation Day speech on Friday, where she is expected to introduce further measures to better ties. The latest developments, coupled with Pope Francis' message of peace and reconciliation during his visit to South Korea this week, are fueling fresh hopes for a change in tone on the Korean peninsula. Hwang Sang-hee, ARIRANG News.
Now, the US Senate says it wants a report on political prison camps in North Korea to be submitted to both intelligence committees of Congress. The Intelligence Authorization Act for the Fiscal Year 2015 states the Director of National Intelligence should show how the US is supporting the implementation of the recommendations of the UN Commission of Inquiry on Human Rights in North Korea. The bill says this should include the eventual establishment of some kind of legal panel to hold individuals accountable for abuses. It should also cover the estimated prisoner population, the geographical location, reasons for confinement of the prisoners, and the prison conditions of each and every political prison camp in North Korea. In February, the UN Commission said the leadership in Pyongyang are responsible for widespread, systematic, and gross violations of human rights. Now, South Korea's ruling and opposition political parties have failed to agree on a possible revision to a bipartisan deal aimed at uncovering the truth about April's deadly Sewol-ho ferry sinking. Meeting on Monday, ruling Saenuri Party floor leader Lee Wang-gu suggested the parties pass the bill in its original form on Wednesday and start the hearing on Monday, but the main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy's floor leader, Park Young-sun, said her party would not agree to pass the bill unless the parties agree on the selection of witnesses for the hearing. The floor leaders are going to meet again to discuss this matter today. The parties agreed last week, in fact, to have President Park appoint a special counsel to look into the cause of the disaster upon receiving candidate recommendations from an independent panel. The family members of the victims rejected that, saying it fails to reflect their demand for a fair investigation and prosecution of anyone who should be found responsible for the disaster, and that includes even high-ranking government officials. An appeals court in Korea has commuted the prison term of an ultra-leftist lawmaker who was sentenced to 12 years behind bars in February for plotting an armed rebellion. The Seoul High Court on Monday overturned that lower court's verdict on Lee Seok-gi and cut his sentence to 9 years. Our Connie Lee reports.
Lawmaker Lee Seok-gi was sentenced to 9 years behind bars on Monday on charges of incitement and violating national security law. The Seoul High Court also imposed a 7-year ban on serving in parliament. Back in February, a lower court sentenced Lee to 12 years in jail, but the judge on Monday commuted it, citing a lack of evidence that Lee actually conspired to stage a rebellion or had the means to overthrow the South Korean government. Lee, a member of the left-wing United Progressive Party, was arrested last September and found guilty of plotting an armed rebellion against the South Korean government in February, making him the nation's first sitting lawmaker to be convicted of treason since the 1980s. Prosecutors had demanded a 20-year prison term for Lee, claiming he led an underground group of 130 members with alleged links to North Korea. Lee has always denied the charges, with his party saying that he's a victim of a witch hunt. However, it was confirmed that the lawmaker did praise North Korea and did speak about how South Korea should prepare for an attack from Pyongyang. Lee claims that he had organized the groups solely for peaceful purposes. Connie Lee, ARIRANG News.
Turning now to the latest on the Ebola outbreak in West Africa. 3 non-Africans with the virus are being treated with an experimental drug called ZMapp, and 2 of them are said to be making a steady recovery. And it's with this in mind that the World Health Organization is set to make an announcement later on this Tuesday on the ethics of using experimental drugs on Ebola patients. Medical ethics experts from around the world are having talks in Geneva as we speak to come up with guidelines for using unauthorized medicines in such emergency situations. So far, 2 of the patients are showing signs of improvement after getting treated with this drug, ZMapp, but the effectiveness of it remains unknown, and it could really end up doing a lot more harm than it does good. Currently, there is no available vaccine for Ebola, and the latest death toll from the virus is now slightly over 1,000. Time now for a look through some of the other international headlines we're following on this Tuesday morning. For that, we turn to our Eunice Kim, standing by at the News Centre. Good morning, Eunice.
Hello, Mark.
So a political storm is brewing in Baghdad. Iraq's new president has named a new prime minister nominee to replace Nouri al-Maliki, who really doesn't look like he's ready to step aside.
That's right, Mark. The rift between Prime Minister Maliki and President Fouad Massoum came to full view on Monday with that appointment. Here's Shin Se-min with the details.
Iraqi President Fouad Massoum has named a new prime minister to end Nouri al-Maliki's 8-year rule, but al-Maliki is refusing to go after deploying special forces on the streets of Baghdad. Speaking on state television Monday, Massoum said he hoped Haidar al-Ibadi would succeed in forming a new government that would protect the Iraqi people and unify the country against a growing threat of radical Sunni militants. But the president's public rejection of al-Maliki's bid for 3rd term has raised the stakes in the fierce battle for political control. Al-Ibadi now has 30 days to form a new government that can win parliamentary approval. However, al-Maliki accused Massoum of carrying out a coup against the constitution and the political process. Al-Maliki's Shiite-dominated bloc won the most parliament seats in April's election. U.S. President Barack Obama welcomed Massoum's decision. He said it was an important step on a path toward a more inclusive government that will unite Iraq's different communities.
Urge all Iraqi political leaders to work peacefully through the political process in the days ahead. Now, this new Iraqi leadership has a difficult task. The United States stands ready to support a government that addresses the needs and grievances of all Iraqi people.
Meanwhile, Kurdish forces continue their battle against Islamic State militants in the north and west of Iraq with the help of American airstrikes. U.S. aircraft on Monday hit 4 militant checkpoints and destroyed several of the group's vehicles near Mount Sinjar, where thousands of people of the Yazidi religious sect have taken refuge. Shin Se-min, ARIRANG News.
Turning now to some shocking news out of Northern California, where American actor and comedian Robin Williams has died at the age of 63. Local sheriff's officials said he was found unconscious in his home in Marin County, where he was pronounced dead at 12:02 p.m. local time on Monday. The cause of death is under investigation, though the coroner's office said it suspects suicide by asphyxia. His publicist said the Oscar-winning actor had been battling severe depression. His wife, Susan Schneider, released a statement saying, "This morning, I lost my husband and my best friend, while the world lost one of its most beloved artists and beautiful human beings. I am utterly heartbroken." After studying theater at Juilliard School, Williams entered into the homes and hearts of many in a plethora of roles, including one as an alien visitor in the 1970s TV series Mork and Mindy, as the lovable father-turned-housekeeper, Mrs. Doubtfire, and as the fatherly therapist in Good Will Hunting, for which he won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor.
Mr. Travolta and Mr. Williams.
Also in the U.S., the Federal Bureau of Investigation has said it will open a probe into the shooting death of 18-year-old Michael Brown, who was gunned down by police in suburban St. Louis over the weekend. In addition to the civil rights investigation, the FBI said it will monitor the probe being carried out by county police. A peaceful protest in a St. Louis suburb had turned into what the town's mayor called a huge mess, as several businesses were looted and cars vandalized. And in eastern Ukraine, Kiev and Moscow have both agreed to allow the Red Cross to lead a humanitarian mission into conflict-ridden Luhansk amid the ongoing fighting. The international effort would include assistance from Russia, the EU, and the U.S. Ukrainian officials underlined that specific conditions were laid out to ensure that only civilians and not illegal armed gangs benefit from the humanitarian aid. Hours earlier, Moscow had said it was dispatching aid into eastern Ukraine with the Red Cross. The joint mission was announced after U.S. President Barack Obama and Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko spoke via phone later Monday. It is not yet clear when those deliveries would begin.
Get connected to Korea and the world. Join us every weekday for the latest developments out of Korea, Asia, and beyond. On air, on your mobile, and online, we lead the way every day. ARIRANG News.
To try and resolve the crisis in Ukraine, the European Union also offers $15 billion. The Korean government wants to make the nation's service sector a new growth engine. Officials say they'll introduce new measures that will boost investments by roughly $14.5 billion and hopefully create 180,000 new jobs. Hwang Jie has the details.
The government will cut red tape, write special laws, and promote competition to help develop 7 service sectors into a new growth engine. During a meeting led by President Park Geun-hye on Tuesday, the government identified medical, tourism, financial distribution, software, contents, and education industries as promising service sectors and confirmed a string of measures to boost investment in them. It will streamline regulations to lure foreign for-profit hospitals and provide subsidies for hospitals that attract foreign patients to Korea. The plans call for more than doubling the number of foreign patients to 500,000 by 2017 from 210,000 last year. It will also push through 4 resort complex development plans on the islands of Yeongjong-do and Jeju that will boost investments by around $8.5 billion. Regulatory reform will also take place in the nation's financial sector. The government will gradually ease the current 15% limit on daily stock price movement to 30%. It expects the measures to stimulate the local stock market and strengthen the market's price-setting mechanism, although there are concerns that it could fuel stock price volatility. Overall, the measures, which come as part of President Park's 3-year economic innovation plan, are expected to boost investment by around $14.5 billion and create 180,000 jobs. Since taking office, the president has emphasized the need for structural changes to lessen Korea's heavy dependence on exports, which make up about half of the nation's total output. Hwang Jie, ARIRANG News.
Now, Korean motorists have been bitten by the Eurobug. Cheaper prices, better service and more choice have sparked a surge in interest in European-made automobiles, and it is German cars such as Audi, BMW and Mercedes-Benz that are coming out on top, as our Song Ji-son reports.
European cars now account for 4 out of every 5 foreign cars shipped to Korea. Sales of imported cars jumped 40% in June from a year earlier to nearly 18,000 to grab a 15% share in the Korean auto market for the first time, according to Korea's Auto Importers and Distributors Association. The big jump was largely due to German vehicles. The biggest losers are Japanese brands, which now represent only 12% of imported cars, down from 36% in 2008. Industry analysts attribute the shrinking Japanese presence to the shift in consumer preference, as efficiency-conscious Korean drivers have turned their eyes to diesel models, especially for sedans. While the Germans roll out new diesel-powered sedans, Japanese automakers have expanded their lineups in the gasoline and hybrid models. In fact, 9 out of 10 best-selling imported cars are German-made diesel models. Korean auto buyers are increasingly preferring European-built cars, with British automakers accounting for 11% and other European brands from France, Sweden, and Italy each accounting for about 1% of total imported car market share, all showing growth from the same period last year. Song Ji-son, ARIRANG News.
Now, Korea is becoming an increasing hive of activity for tourists. And of the 12 million foreign tourists who came to the country last year, 1/3 were from China. And with China expected to become the world's largest travel market over the next 10 years, many more are expected to come our way. And this is presenting a unique challenge for the country's tourism industry, namely offering proper accommodations. Our Park Ji-won reports.
The nearly 4 million Chinese tourists who entered Korea last year made up about 1/3 of the total number. It's a figure that has risen at a steady pace in recent years, up 34% annually on average over the past 5. And with a bilateral free trade agreement expected to be inked by the end of this year, the influx of Chinese tourists is expected to grow even more in the near future, with nearly 10 million people total from both countries going back and forth each year. To meet the demand, Korea's tourism infrastructure will need to adjust, particularly with regard to its accommodations. There were, for instance, nearly 28,000 rooms available in Seoul last year. That's just 1/5 the number of hotel rooms that Beijing or Tokyo offered. For the most popular range of hotel rooms, which cost between $80 to $100 per night, the number for Seoul drops to about 3,000. The Korea Tourism Organization estimates that at least 40,000 more hotel rooms will need to be created to meet the demand of Chinese tourists in the future. Park Ji-won, ARIRANG News.
Now, everyone loves a nice, good and convenient mobile app, and Korea is absolutely no different. And it gets even better for those of us living in Korea because it's going to get easier to make small payments through our smartphones. Korea's top portal operator, Naver Corporation, is reportedly considering launching a mobile wallet system through its social networking service Band. It's expected to allow users to transfer up to around $100 to their family and friends. Now, this comes as the corporation's biggest rival Kakao Corporation says it's launching a similar service this year, this in collaboration with local banks and credit card companies. Both Band and Kakao are widely used in Korea for mobile messaging. Each has an estimated 35 million users.
And a good Tuesday morning to you all as we kick things off in the LPGA, where South Korea's Lee Mi-rim was able to win her first LPGA Tour title. Not to mention, she beat out Park In-bi of all golfers to claim that title. Despite Park In-bi having the lead for most part of the tournament, Lee Mi-rim shoots a 2-under on the final round to force a sudden death playoff against Park. Both golfers par in the first sudden death playoff hole, but it was Lee Mi-rim's birdie on the second hole that gave her the win for her very first LPGA Tour title. Meanwhile, Park In-bi looks to defend their Wegman LPGA Championship title later this week. Now, staying in golf, a lot of golf fans remember when Tiger Woods dominated the PGA, but that all seems to be in the past, as Rory McIlroy is the guy everyone's talking about. And this especially after winning the PGA Championship this past weekend. Now, despite Phil Mickelson going neck and neck with Rory McIlroy in the final round, the 25-year-old from Northern Ireland keeps his composure and wins the tournament after shooting a 16 under par overall. Now, this is his second victory in as many weeks and his second major victory of the season. And now switching over from golf clubs to hockey sticks, as the South Korean national hockey team bolstered their coaching staff after signing yet another former NHL player. 38-year-old Richard Park, who was born in Seoul but raised in the U.S., joins the South Korean national hockey team as the assistant coach. The second South Korean native to play in the NHL will coach alongside Jim Peck, the first Korean-born NHLer who was signed as the head coach of the national team. As a right wing, Park scored over 100 goals with 6 different NHL teams. And now shifting over to baseball, where Korea will host yet another international event, this time in 2016 when the 2016 Women's Baseball World Cup will take place. Now, according to the International Baseball Federation, Korea was given the rights to host the 2016 Women's Baseball World Cup for the first time ever, as the nation will now host their third international baseball event. Now, Japan will, of course, host the 2014 Women's Baseball World Cup before the tournament comes to Korea 2 years later. And now with that, finishing things off, 3 of the games being rained out on Sunday in the KBO. 3 games took place on Monday in the KBO as the Hanwha Eagles beat the LG Twins 4-2, with the NC Dinos cruising past the SK Wyverns 7-2. Meanwhile, a big matchup between the Nexen Heroes and the Samsung Lions, so let's take a look at the highlights. Now, of course, going into the game here, we go over to the bottom of the first inning. Itae-gun, and there it goes to right center. This one is gone, and the Nexen Heroes take a 1-0 lead. Second inning, the Lion King Lee Seung-yup with a man on and deep to right. Gone, number 25 on the season, and Samsung takes the lead 2-1. Third inning, man on second, Chete in an RBI double to left center field, and it's now 3-1. Fourth inning of the game with the man on, Park Byung-ho, that's number 36 on the season, and we're tied 3-3. Next inning, Itae-gun, and once again, his second of the night, gives the Nexen Heroes the 5-3 lead. Eighth inning with Nexen up 6-4. Choi Young-woo deep to right field. This one's gone as well, a 2-run shot, and we're tied 6-6. This game goes to extra innings. We're in the 11th inning. Lee Seung-yup with a clutch RBI single gives Samsung the 7-6 lead and the win. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day, and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Early autumn-like weather continues in the morning and the evening hours, though it still feels hot in the afternoon with highs reaching upper 20s to low 30s, so please be aware of a big temperature gap today. And AM fogs in the inland region should burn off in the morning hours, and it shouldn't be as sunny as yesterday, though, with clouds expected to move into the peninsula as it gets to the afternoon. With that, here are the readings for today. The afternoon high in Seoul will rise to 30, and Daegu and Gwangju will peak at 32 and 31 respectively. And for other regions, it looks like Jeju Island and Daejeon will rise to 29, while Dokdo will peak at 28 this afternoon. And as for the weather outlook here in Seoul, it will be a cloudy day for the next couple of days. Then the sun will be back on Friday into Saturday. So for now, mostly to partly sunny day is on tap for beatification ceremony that's taking place on Saturday morning in Gwanghwamun Plaza. Well, that's all for Korea, and here's international weather for viewers around the world.
Well, that's all we have for now. We'll be back with another newscast at noon Korea time. Until then, goodbye.